Let us remember for a second what the title of the episode is. We are discussing the best language in general, but also the best language depending on its context. In this instance, we want to talk about phonetics, sounds, and what makes a language attractive from a musical point of view. We often are attracted to songs written in different languages, like say Spanish or French, because they sound good to the ear. We might start wondering, wow, what language is that? It's beautiful. Based on this assumption, we asked our experts which language that you do not speak sounds the prettiest to you. Of course, we did not define what pretty means. Instead, we allow them to make their own interpretations. Two of our experts took the chance to expand slightly on this idea. We will listen now to Tomasz and Guillaume.
It is a very Central European romantic topos of melodic languages, yeah. And some people even wrote monographs about it. I read a monograph like 20 years ago, written in English about Russian as the most melodious language in the world. Okay, yeah, on which basis? And what makes languages beautiful or ugly? It is complete subjective stereotype which we have about languages. Yeah, like in Central Europe and in all of Europe after the Second World War, we have this stereotype of German being a harsh, awful language, not sounding very nicely. Well, because we watch this kind of war films where they were barking German, not speaking German. Okay, fine. But if you have a look at the discourse in the 18th century, French writers and English writers and Latin writers are extolling German as the language of poetry and song because it's sweet and it is nicely flowing. And obviously, if you go through this list, you know, nowadays in Britain, you would ask, okay, Russian is a very melodious language. French is a very sexy and cultural language. Spanish is a very macho language. And then, what is Maltese? What is Luxembourgish? Huh? Because you don't have the stereotypes. Yeah, the stereotypes were developed for the general consumption in regard of these quote unquote large languages. Yeah, and you don't have stereotypes about the other language. Obviously, when you are an Albanian speaker, you have some stereotypes about other languages, but still, it is in Eurasia where indigenous languages are employed in official capacity. When you go to some other countries where colonial languages are used in official capacity, out of sudden, if you ask someone in Kenya, you know, is Lingala a melodious language, you would just get a blank look. What are you asking about? Give me a job or let's do something sensible. It's just, you know, crazy stuff you are talking about. Yeah. So there are these kind of cultural and anthropological ethnographic contexts which work in certain areas during certain periods and in other areas don't. So it's very culture, romantic, nationalistic, European specific, I would say, the question you're asking.
The answer to that is really tricky. Which one I find the most beautiful? For me, I think the problem is that if you answer that question, you are forcibly referring to one of few experiences of a foreign language. Now, if you get a beautiful, like a singer, I've read, for example, German, when you hear it for the first time, if it's by a rough guy, a rough politician who's a bit impatient, you're going to think, my God, how can people speak that language? It sounds horrible. But then you can listen to Bach cantatas and think, this is sublime. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the German. It's beautiful, you know. And I think it's almost impossible to answer the question because I've heard any language that sounds beautiful and others that sound horrible, depending on the speaker. And, you know, I don't think that's a matter to do with the language itself or its structure, but more like with the person speaking. But it's true that I've been generally very, I don't know why, but I've been very touched by Russian. Often I've listened to Russian spoken and it's moved me. I just don't know. There are sonorities in there, tonalities that sound incredibly warm and beautiful, but not simple, just sophisticated, but interesting. But it's purely, it's like it's really a shot in the air. I think what is more important is the personality and the nature of the speaker rather than the actual language they're speaking. So I don't think there is a language that is more beautiful than others. I can tell you about a language that I find horrible. Klingon. Really, really scary. Really, and this very clever. I mean, I'm not that interested in Star Trek, but when you listen to the Klingon, you can't help thinking, this is not nice. And of course, it's done on purpose. It's a language that is made to sound aggressive because, of course, they're the Klingons. So they're not here for fun. They're here to dominate us.
And that is Klingon. We will leave it up to you to decide whether it sounds pretty or not. On the other hand, Tom and Anthony mentioned Romance languages.
Oh, look, I think I love, and I think it's also quite common. I do love some of the European language, French, Italian. I love the sound of those, and I think they've got a very nice rhythm to their language.
I don't speak French, but I love the sound of it. It has this kind of nice, confusing, cozy feeling type of thing, if they talk it like that. But it could also be pretty arrogant. Like, for instance, French people, they can have this puffing sound before they say something. If somebody says, ça va, they say, ça va bien. Like, what do you mean? Huh? Come on. So it could be pretty arrogant as well, but it could be really lovely.
Finally, Greg added the icing on the cake. Here is a short passage in his chosen language.
Da no tiero paditiero la suana gidiero hudeyero la suana kuru da uyero do yero la suana to anombero yellayero la suana Fatuma bonzukuye yanio no.
And this is him answering the question.
Well, I'm going to go way out of left field here, too, and I'm going to say Hausa. It's the largest spoken language in Nigeria, and it's a wonderful sounding language, and I desperately wish I knew it. I know a lot about Hausa, but I don't understand it. I could lecture endlessly about its structure to you, but I do not speak the language, though it's one I really wish I did speak, and it's one of my unfulfilled life goals.